So a few weeks ago I made my first video in my Pokemon Trivia series, with my first video being all about Trainer Red. But yeah, Pokemon Trivia is going to be where we take a look at any topic that isn't a list or something like that. And even though I've been a Pokemon fan for over a decade now, I still have a bunch of questions. But today's question is, can Pokemon de-evolve? So, revert back to a previous stage. Well, let's take a look. While it may not be possible to revert a Pokemon back to its previous stage in the games, there is still evidence to suggest otherwise, even if the method is unobtainable. The greatest example of this would be Slowbro and Slowking. Even though Slowbro and Slowking evolve in the games entirely independent of Shelter, both of the Pokedex entries mention it. In the anime, it's shown that this is how a Slowpoke can evolve into both of these Pokemon. Both of their entries even go as far as to say that if the Shelter is removed, then it will revert back to a regular Slowpoke. So, de-evolution? But is this the only case? Another Pokemon that I think is worth mentioning is Mantine, which surprisingly I haven't seen mentioned in relation to this topic too much, but I'd like to add my opinion on it anyway. Mantine is one of those Pokemon that's shown to have a very strong association with another Pokemon, like the Slowpoke line in Shelter, but for Mantine this Pokemon would be Remoraid. Up until Generation 4, Mantine is shown with a Remoraid in most of its sprites, and the majority of its official artwork, and artwork from the trading card game, depicts it with a Remoraid attached. But the most important part would be the fact that in the games, Mantine's pre-evolution Mantike actually requires a Remoraid in the party to evolve at all. So does this mean that it follows the same rule as Slowbro and Slowking? If you remove the Remoraid, would Mantine revert back to a Mantike? Well, probably not. I said that Mantine features Remoraid in the majority of its designs, which it does, but not all of them. They removed Remoraid from Mantine's sprites way back in Generation 4 too. And the most telling factor would be the fact that when Mantike does evolve, the Remoraid in the party doesn't disappear. If anything, it's just an aid to Mantike's evolution, instead of actually being a part of the Pokemon. The third Pokemon that could suggest evidence of de-evolution would be Exeggutor. Maybe it would be better if we used its regular form. There we go. In any case, Exeggutor's Pokedex entries have stated that if one of its heads were to fall off, then it would turn back into an Exeggcute. But what does that even mean? Thinking of a two-headed Exeggutor is strange enough, but does that mean that it would become one of Exeggute's eggs on its own? Or that it would somehow split into 6 of them? Maybe we should leave this one. But let's look at other sources. De-evolution is very possible within the Pokemon Adventures manga, or at least through artificial means. Red's Eevee, V, was able to switch between being an Eevee and any of the known evolutions at time at will, before it's eventually evolved into an Espeon permanently, though this would be because it was experimented on by Team Rocket. However, in the Pokemon Pocket Monsters manga, all Pokemon naturally have this ability. But as you may already know, the Pokemon Pocket Monsters manga is extremely different to the canon that we know, so it's a good idea to take it all with a grain of salt. But let's get back to the games. De-evolution is possible in some of the Mystery Dungeon games at the very least. Introduced in Gates to Infinity, the de-evolution orb is a wonder orb that de-evolves all enemies in the room. And in Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon, the Harmony Scarves that the player and the partner wear have the ability to evolve a Pokemon temporarily. Weird thing is, when using this scarf, the Pokemon skips its middle evolution stage and just goes straight to its final stage. And the effects of the scarves wear off soon after, meaning that the Pokemon, well, de-evolves. These scarves are made from the Tree of Life, and so, when the scarves are near the Tree of Life, they allow Pokemon to temporarily evolve. However, during Super Mystery Dungeon, you end up having to give up the scarves anyway, so it's not like this is an ability that you can use for the whole game. Let's move on to the trading card game. In the TCG, there are 2 trainer cards that are capable of de-evolving Pokemon, being the De-Evolution Spray and the Hyper De-Evolution Spray. There are also a few Pokemon cards that have attacks that are able to de-evolve Pokemon. These would be 1 Mew card, 2 Mew EX cards, a Jirachi card, and a Golurt card. Rising Rivals also has cards of the 3 Kanto evolutions that allow you to de-evolve that Pokemon back into Eevee. But that's just about all for today's video. Do let me know what you think of it. And if you can think of a question or a topic that you'd like me to analyze, then leave me a comment down below. If you want to see the first video in my Pokemon Trivia series, which is about Trainer Red, then you can click right here. Or if you want to see my countdown of the top 10 Pokemon games that were never released, then you can click here. But in any case, that's all for now from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye!